performance coach, obviously you deal a lot with high stress situations and how people can manage them. With exams coming up, what would be some good techniques that students could use?
Yeah, so you're right. Exams are very stressful, and I think the first point that people should note is that it's all right to be anxious. You're anxious for a reason, and it means that something matters to you, and it motivates you to study and to work. If you were never anxious about anything, you would just not be bothered, you wouldn't do anything. So it's okay to be anxious. A lot of the problems people have with anxiety and stress is they actually don't like the feeling of being anxious, and that's what makes them even more stressed. So keep that in mind, and students, I would suggest, have an overarching consideration to, am I doing everything that can be done to help me perform at my best under exam conditions? So that is obviously, knowing the content of your course material and revising, but it's much more than that. It involves things like your food. Are you giving yourself good nutrition? Do you sleep well? Are you focusing on rewarding yourself when you've studied hard and having good downtime? So it's not just about the intensity and quantity of how much you've studied. People who perform in high performance fields, like elite athletes, they don't just focus on how much they train, they focus on their rest time as well. That's really important. And the best way to cope with anxiety and stress is to put yourself under a lot of stress. And what I mean by that is, when you revise, you need to practice and prepare in a way that we call high fidelity preparation. So preparation is real life. So if you are taking a mock exam, create the conditions that are very similar to an exam condition when you do that mock exam. So dress as you will for your exam. Maybe ideally do that mock exam at the same time of day that you would do the actual exam. Have the same breakfast. If the mock exam is for an hour and a half, make yourself do that exam in an hour and 15 minutes. So put yourself under more pressure when you're practicing than you will be put under in the actual exam conditions. And when you do that, you're much more likely to be able to perform well when the real life exam happens, because you've experienced more pressure than they're going to put you under.
Yeah.
So that's the key thing of any sort of what we call stress inoculation training. When you do that, you immunise yourself to stress. You become so great at handling pressure that it doesn't lead to stress. And the other point to note is always be aware where your stress comes from. So a lot of this comes from expectations of other people, maybe parents, but also our own internal expectations. And that can create a huge amount of anxiety, these thoughts of, what if I fail, life is over, I won't get into a university I want to get into, or the future's bleak. A really important point to note is that things are never as bad in the moment as you believe them to be. Yeah. And that's very difficult for a student, because you haven't had much experience of life. But as you progress through life, a lesson you'll learn is that when you're really anxious, it's never as bad as it seems to be, and it is never the end of the world. And having that perspective and wisdom at a young age can actually help reduce the stress that you feel, because you feel under less pressure. Doesn't mean that you won't work as hard or as intensively and won't be as committed to getting the grade you want, but it means that pressure is less likely to inhibit you in performing really well.